What if the biggest limitation in your life and your work isn't your resources or your skills or even your circumstances, but the size of your vision? Most of us, we don't fail because we dream too big. We fail because we aim too small. We choose reasonable goals, goals that keep us busy but uninspired. We chase incremental wins that barely move the needle. And in the process, I believe we cheat ourselves, our teams, and the world of what we're truly capable of. That's why this lesson matters. And I call it think big, grow yourself, and expand your impact. So when we talk about incremental thinking, for years, I was caught in this trap. I've always been a big picture thinker, but when it came time to act, I caved under the pressure. Instead of sticking with bold goals, I lowered my expectations. And I told myself, maybe I was just being practical, that the bigger picture wasn't realistic. What I was really doing was playing small. I was busy on the hamster wheel of work and life, but not moving closer towards my bigger picture. And even worse, I convinced myself that past failures meant that I wasn't good enough, or that maybe I just wasn't the right person to make these big things happen. And it took a ton of painful lessons to realize this. Incremental thinking can keep you stuck in mediocrity. I can't speak today. So when we think of setting goals, lots of people set goals. Often people think we're going to eke out a small improvement. Even a 2x or a 3x goal are what I call safe goals. And usually, and they're safe because usually they mean doing more of what you're already doing. Longer hours, harder work, maybe a bit more efficiency. And this is achievable, but it rarely transforms you. And it's often not sustainable because you have to put in so much of that extra work and effort to do. You only have so many hours in the day. A 10x goal, on the other hand, you just can't get there incrementally or simply by working harder. You have to think differently. You have to act differently, and often completely redesign your approach. And that's where the power of it comes in. It forces you to ask new questions. It demands creativity, innovation, courage. And it breaks you free from that incremental thinking to unlock exponential possibilities. For example, if a business leader, if they're aiming for 2 times more growth, they might squeeze out more hours, add a few more salespeople, cut costs. But a leader aiming for 10x growth, they're reimagining their entire model. They're creating partnerships. They're automating processes, shifting strategy entirely. Now, a great example of this was when I first started my fitness business. I was a solo operator, had no money, no credit. I couldn't afford downtown lease rates to start my studio. And it would have been easy to give up and try something else. Just say, well, I don't have the money. You got to have money to make money. That's the saying. But I knew downtown in the middle of the corporate activity was where I wanted to be. So I started asking different questions, identifying the problems that nobody else was solving and creating win-win partnerships. And this led me to partnering with property developers, property owners, management companies to run their existing fitness centers and grow my own business. I created a model that wasn't really present at the time. And during this time, I paid minimal to no rent, had zero facilities overhead, and I was able to expand to multiple locations across the province with a team of over 30 people. And this wouldn't have been possible by following the traditional model. Sure, I could have gone to the banks and tried to get more loans and done all these things, but that wasn't an option for me at the time. The banks wouldn't look at me, and so I had to think differently. And it's been interesting to see. I've brought that lesson with me so many times throughout my life. But thinking big also requires challenging the binary choices that we've been taught to accept. And this is what I love about it. Things like health or wealth, work or family, high performance or stress, profits or people. These are binary decisions that people think they have to make. We can't be a profitable company if we care for our people because it's too expensive, or I have to work hard to make partner at my law firm or to progress in my career. And in order to do that, I have to sacrifice my health. Thinking big asks, what if it's yes and? How can I build my wealth while protecting my health? How can I be successful professionally and be a loving present parent? How can my business be highly profitable and take care of its employees? The people in the organizations who thrive are the ones who stop choosing important options and start creating ways to accomplish both. The turning point for me was when I saw others, people with less skill, less experience, less education, accomplishing the very goals that I dreamed about. That was my wake-up call. The difference wasn't talent or opportunity. It was mindset, habits, and the willingness to keep that bigger vision in focus, even when it was uncomfortable. And I definitely had some dark times and where I forgot about that. But during those dark times, looking back, I realized I'd cut myself off from, first of all, the vision, but second of all, the very people who could help me. I'd isolated myself from business groups, different colleagues in the industries that I found inspiring, mastermind communities, the people who challenged me, who inspired me, and who held me accountable to my bigger vision. In those dark times, I'd forgotten that completely. And I've realized that it's nearly impossible to generate big results in isolation. We often need others to ideate, to inspire, to keep us moving forward. Now, this lesson, it doesn't just apply to individuals. I see leaders make a few critical mistakes with their vision. First, they're often thinking too small, setting safe, incremental goals. And while this is great and it's awesome in corporate, sometimes we need to push. If we set incremental goals, the team, they'll nod politely and no one's fired up about it. Really, no one's keen on seeking out another 2% improvement or a 5% improvement. To be able to think differently and think bigger doesn't mean setting unrealistic goals. It doesn't mean setting yourself up for failure. It's more of a mindset of here's the vision we want and the passion to change. The second mistake I see is that leaders often fail to connect that big picture to the daily progress that's made towards that. So a bold vision without milestones just feels like a poster on the wall. People need to see how their daily work contributes to something extraordinary and to be recognized for it and celebrated for it throughout the process, and also held accountable to help keep moving towards that goal. And the third mistake I often see leaders make is that they push when they set this big vision, and maybe they're working on those small goals in between and recognizing it, but they push too relentlessly towards that vision. Sustained high performance is generally optimized through repeated small sprints. And I know this coming from the elite performance athlete to fitness health side of it, is that your team needs mental and physical rest. It's important to make sure that they get that rest at regular intervals. So to make sure you avoid these, anchor your 10x vision in those small, purposeful steps. Paint that big picture, and then give people tangible ways to make progress toward it every day. Set up that series of sprints where you celebrate effort and progress along the way. That's how the mindset and the daily habits link together. So vision provides the fuel and habits provide the traction. So what are some of the practical steps that you can take? How do you think about, or how do you start thinking bigger without overwhelming yourself? So I've got a few simple steps for you. One, identify where you're playing small and be honest with yourself. Where are you setting reasonable goals instead of bold ones that are really going to move the needle? And then set one 10x goal, something that excites you and scares you at the same time. Write it down. Break that goal into small, consistent habits that you need to work on each day, each week, each month to get you to that goal. Knowing that 10x goal is not going to change overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. But then once you've broken it down, what's the one thing you can do daily, weekly to move yourself closer to it? I also encourage people to adopt a yes and mindset. Look for those areas where you've accepted those false trade-offs. Ask yourself, how can I create both? Last one is surround yourself with big thinkers. There's that old saying is you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Upgrade the people you hang around with. Join groups, masterminds, communities that expand your vision and help hold you accountable. I've experienced this in my career and some of the biggest periods of change and growth and excitement were when I was with these groups. And again, I've had many times throughout my career where I've not been with them, and they're almost like the doldrums or the dark ages. And then you join a new group and it's like the Renaissance and your brain's exploding with ideas and motivation and inspiration. So surround yourself with those people who can help make that happen. So here's my challenge for you. Again, take one of those goals you've been keeping reasonable and double it or triple it, or even better yet, 10x it. How does that change how you have to think about accomplishing it? All right. So don't settle for 2x. Don't choose false options. I encourage you so much to think bigger, aim higher, and watch what happens when you give yourself permission to go after that vision that you're truly capable of. I'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. Please message me, comment, post. Am I being unrealistic? I don't know. Let me know. I've experienced this in my life. Maybe it's different for you. I'd love to hear what you think. Let's chat. That wraps up another episode of the Working Well podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Now, which guests or topics would you like to see featured on the show? Message me through LinkedIn or on the contact page of timborys.com with your ideas. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Borys with Fresh Wellness Group, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.